Mentor, Representative Cook,
Here.
Chairman Meredith.
Here. We do have a quorum. Before we get into the formal agenda, let me deviate just for a moment, please. As most of you should know that today is Flag Day. Inasmuch, I'd like to honor that by asking Co-Chair Cook if he would to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody please stand, face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, but it's also a special day that it's the 29th birthday again of our fearless leader here, Kim Eisner. So she said congratulations on another trip around the sun. Hope and wish you many, many more.
Thank you, Chairman.
First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of the May 10th meeting of the committee. Is there a motion that they be considered approved?
So moved.
Motion Representative Hart, seconded by Co-Chair Cook. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor. Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Motion on the minutes. Thank you. Motion carries. Total number of items on the agenda today are 1,137 in the amount of one. What am I going? The number's so large, I'm not sure I can get it. One, is that billion?
Yep.
$1,849,295,864 and believe it or not, 11 cents. All agenda vendors are registered with the Secretary of State. Next.
Good morning. I'm Alan Hurst. I'm the Acting Executive Director of the Office of Employee Relations. Been a Merit State employee since 2015 and with the Personnel Cabinet since 2020. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rosemary Holbrook. I'm the Assistant General Counsel with Personnel Cabinet. I've been a state employee for 10 years, and I have been with Personnel Cabinet since 2015.
Lindy Case-Spear, Deputy Secretary.
Please, if you would, check your mic. Make sure the green light's on.
Sorry. Lindy Case-Spear, Deputy Secretary, Kentucky Personnel Cabinet.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Just to refresh the memories of our committee members, the reason that this was deferred from the previous month is that we had a disagreement, we being myself and you folks, as to applicability of Senate Bill 42, which we passed this last session. And again, just to remind the committee members, the pertinent point of this legislation was that no contract should be awarded to a business under this chapter if the business was awarded an original contract and subsequent or similar contract in the past 5 years, and the business procured the original, subsequent, or similar contract through the use of an executive agency lobbyist who was convicted of a crime related to the original, subsequent, or similar contract. You all agree that it was our point of contention last month, correct?
Correct.
Well, I will concede after reviewing the situation, kind of a unique situation, in that this contract, the lobbyist who was convicted of this crime, he wasn't convicted specific to the actions related to this contract. Is that a fair way to summarize it?
Yes, sir.
That's our understanding, yes, sir.
So Senate Bill 42 does not play an effect here, but I'll still take the position that we should not renew this contract. And let me kind of review the history with you folks on this. I first brought up this objection back in 2020, when this contract was up for renewal. And the reason for my objection is, if I could, let me read a newspaper article for you. I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of it. This is from Adam Bean. Many of you remember Adam from the Associated Press. He covered our legislature. And it's dated June 13, 2018. And he's speaking with regard to the conviction of the parties involved in bribing cabinet officials. And again, excuse me, I don't want to bore you with the entire article, just trying to get to the meat of this, but I'll start with a $1,000 payment on that date in 2016 was one of several meetings between two men over 7 years. The arrangement began around 2010 when the lobbyist consulting firm represented Cannon Cochran Management Services, Inc., a company that was paid about $1 million a year to administer Kentucky's workers' compensation claims. Longmire, the cabinet official who was indicted for this and subsequently was charged and convicted, testified he met with the lobbyist who offered to give him a Christmas present. It was a euphemism for a bribe, Longmire said. He was asking to make sure that CCMSI got the contract. CCMSI first won the contract in 2005, but in 2010, Longmire said he worked to keep the contract with CCMSI because the lobbyist had paid him. Underwriters, the other firm that had submitted responded to a request for proposal, protested because its bid had been $200,000 less. Longmire said he directed the staff to have CCMSI lower its bid by $200,000 to keep the contract. After that, Sullivan, the lobbyist, kept paying Longmire. He handed him $2,500 in an envelope under the table at a Mexican restaurant in Frankfort. He met him in the parking lot of a Frisch's restaurant and discreetly dropping an envelope filled with $4,000 in the driver's side window. It landed in Longmire's lap. Longmire said he donated most of the money to Democratic political campaigns. He got around the campaign contributions limit by giving the money to family and friends, so forth, so forth. But the purpose of reading you this article was to protest awarding this contract. You know, given this history, when this contract came up in 2020, I asked cabinet officials at that time if this was the low bid. And under oath, which we administered on that day, they said that it was. But further examination and questioning, they said, no, it wasn't the low bid, it was the best bid, which is, to me, kind of arbitrary, capricious. But it becomes quite evident that this company had privileged inside information which allowed them to reduce their bid and be considered for this contract. But given this history, do you really think it's the best interest of this Commonwealth to continue with this vendor?
I can't speak on prior RFP processes. I was involved in the 2020 RFP process. We followed all the requirements of 45A. I certainly sympathize with your discussion of the history. My main concern has always been the administration of the workers' compensation benefits for our state employees and all the volunteer firefighters throughout the entire state of Kentucky that we cover by statute. We issued the RFP process pursuant to 45A. We had not just members of the personnel cabinet on the scoring committee, but members of other cabinets as well. We followed the processes of 45A, and since that period of 2020 up to this period of renewal, we've had no issue with the services under the contract in terms of administering the benefits for our workers. I hope that answers your question.
It does, but I take issue with your assessment of the situation, and I'll call your attention to Section 45A.015 of our Model Procurement Code, and it says specifically, every contract or duty under this code shall impose an obligation of good faith in the performance or enforcement. Good faith shall mean honesty in fact in the conduct or transaction concerned in the observance of a reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. Do you think that them having inside information, paying a lobbyist to do this, really meets this particular standard?
Again, I don't believe there's any inside information or any accusations there for the RFP process in 2020, and I believe it's 45A695 sub 5 that says we have to award the contract to the vendor that meets the criteria set up in the RFP. So I can't speak for what happened prior to 2020. That's the RFP process I was involved in, and there was no indication that there was not good faith through that process, and and we checked with various parties.
But we know now in retrospect that there wasn't good faith. So why should this contract be renewed? I don't think it meets this particular standard.
There is no issue with performance under the contract as it pertains to the contract that was entered into through the 2020 RFP.
Well, let me read another document to you. This is from March 18th, 2019, from the Executive Branch Ethics Commission. It said, today the Executive Branch Ethics Commission found Cannon Cochran Management Services, Inc., CCMSI, a Delaware corporation, in violation of KRS Chapter 11A, the Executive Branch Code of Ethics. Again, their words, in violation of KRS Chapter 11A. In a settlement agreement approved by the Commission, CCMSI agreed to not contest 14 counts of violating the Code of Ethics that occurred during its role as a real party in interest after it's engaged an individual pursuant to KRS 11A.201, left paren 4, right paren, by retaining him for compensation to act for or on behalf of CCMSI to influence executive agency decisions or to conduct executive agency lobby activity. Specifically to counts 1 through 10, CCMSI failed to file an initial registration statement or an updated registration statement for the years 2005 through 2014 inclusive. In counts 11 through 14, CCMSI accepted an engagement for compensation that was contingent upon an outcome of an executive agency decision for the years 2005 through 2008 inclusive. Pursuant to the settlement agreement, CCMSI agrees to pay a $50,000 civil penalty, receive a public reprimand, and waives any right to appeal. The Commission concluded the matter by issuing a final order. So again, given that history, you think it's acceptable to award this contract for renewal?
We were aware of that with the Ethics Committee. We actually checked with them to see if this was still an eligible vendor under KRS 45A. And I feel like we had to follow the requirements of KRS 45A. So we did check with the Ethics Commission. We were aware of that, and they said that, yes, they would still be an eligible vendor in terms of the RFP process back in 2020.
They may be eligible, but in terms of common sense, and it goes back to good faith negotiation on these contracts, they did not live up to the provision, but you're still willing to give them a pass on this and renew their contract.
Due to performance under the contract over the last 2 years, I have no issues with continuing the process, especially during the completely unique claims that we were dealing with over the last 2 years and the benefits that were provided to our state workers and volunteer firefighters throughout the state of Kentucky. And again, I'm not aware of what happened with RFP processes prior to 2020. I could seek that information out, but I entered the Personnel Cabinet in 2020 and we followed KRS 45A.
Well, let me give you one more then. A representative from CCMSI asked to meet with me last week. His name's Andrew Withington, supposedly a regional manager for this company. Wanted to talk about renewal of his contract, and he asked me why I wasn't in favor of it. And after I explained to him, he said, we have saved the Commonwealth $79 million while we've had this contract. And doesn't that register with you? Aren't you interested in saving the Commonwealth money? Certainly am. I think that the committee members will testify on my behalf that I'm always interested in saving the Commonwealth money. I think that's part of our role. But 3 issues I have with this assertion that he saved us $79 million. First, that's their job. That's why you have a TPA. Secondly, I can't validate they have saved us $79 million. And thirdly, there's nothing to suggest that another company could not have saved even more money. But the thing that really got my attention with this contract is it's $1 million a year contract. But yet we only received 2 requests for proposals for renewal. This is in 2020. I don't know what you got for this go around, but this is not rocket science. I appreciate it's a very specialized role for third-party administrators, but there are a dozen firms across the United States that do this very service. But we only get 2 requests for proposals. I think because people have drawn the foregone conclusion that this is a done deal. They're going to get it regardless, so why even involve ourselves in it? let me finish my conversation with this particular gentleman. I thought it was strange. He entered my office and he said, I'm Catholic and been saying the rosary. I go, well, good. Good for you. I think it had something to do with the fact I had a crucifix back on my wall behind my desk. I thought, but this got nothing to do with this situation.
Yes, sir.
But then he proceeded to say, I think that you view us as a northern carpetbagger. I said, not my words. I've never used that word. That's your words. And he said, I see you've been in healthcare for many, many years, and you obviously have a bias against third-party administrators. I don't. You got a role to play. I mean, we need them. So, we already set the tone for this very bad. After he mentioned that the 79 million, I said, well, I'm not impressed by that. He mentioned that he had followed my Facebook post and my testimony committee on this particular matter, and that possibly I had defamed or libeled the company. I said, well, I'm not the one that's on trial here at the moment, and let's talk about the particulars of this. You had inside information on this contract. That's what allowed you to be awarded this contract successfully. You lowered your bid by $200,000 because you had what should have been confidential, privileged information. So you lowered your bid and you awarded the contract. That's not fair. I call that cheating. I don't want to deal with cheaters. So I don't support this contract. Now, he finished with, if you persist with this and our contract is not renewed, my company will sue you for defamation and libel. Does that bother you?
So let me start by saying, first off, and this may be going back a bit, there were 3 vendors for our contract in 2020.
Doesn't make me feel a whole lot better.
There was no inside information I can attest to any of the RFP process in 2020, which is the current contract we're dealing with. And
Then let's just clear that record then. I'll concede that one. But now you have a representative from this company who has threatened to sue me personally if this contract is not renewed. Now, isn't that a violation of 524.04? This says if you attempt to intimidate anybody that's involved in this process, it's a Class D felony.
Sir, I don't think it'd be appropriate for us to comment on your conversation between the CCMI representative and we weren't there in the discussion. I don't think it's appropriate for us to discuss the legalities of that conversation.
Well, you know where this may be going. And there were 2 witnesses to this threat. I think it's a violation of 524.040, intimidating a participant in the legal process.
all I can say is this is the first we've heard of this. We don't have a relationship with the vendor in that regard. We've had no conversations with this vendor about this renewal process outside of the normal course and scope of business. We were not aware of that meeting. Again, our primary concern is the administration of workers' compensation.
I don't think that it is. Not if you're willing to turn a blind eye to this kind of abuse of the system. You know, no wonder people don't have any confidence in state government. You know, this is a direct violation of the standards that we set for procurement. It's not open. It wasn't honest. People got information they should not have received. But we're going to say, no harm, no foul.
Senator, are you talking about the process in 2020, or are you talking about what happened years ago?
Both.
Well, the process in 2020, when we were all in the cabinet, was fair. And that's what we're here to talk about today. The other thing we're here to talk about today is that they scored, CCMSI scored higher than the other two vendors. That's the fact. And, you know, it's apparent that whatever we say is not going to matter.
No, it's not. Not
No,
unless
well,
you're willing to
see,
acknowledge
well, there
that
you
these
go.
folks got an unfair advantage in getting the award of this contract.
No, because the facts matter. And
Yes, it does. That's why I'm going to refer this to Attorney General's office, because I think it's a blatant violation of the law.
well, that's your opinion.
All right,
But
let's move on then. Is there a motion to approve this contract?
Senator Meredith, if I may, please, sir.
No, you may not. You're not recognized. I don't want to hear any more of it. It's obvious where you folks are going to go. We'll let the courts decide this. We'll let the Attorney General decide it. Sit down.
I did sign it.
Sit down.
Motion to disapprove the contract.
There's a motion to disapprove. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of disapproving the contract, vote aye. All vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
Spend my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm voting yes, and I just wanted to explain this piece of this. We're talking about trying to silo the 2020 contract away from prior vendor experience in our system of procurement, and I feel like when you get an unfair advantage, it's like in a jury trial. Trying to unsee or unhear something can't be done, and you use your prior experience in your future experiences. So I don't think you can sit here and say 2020 is what we're talking about, because we are talking about 2020. But they can't unsee and unhear what they've experienced in prior experiences, and that's why you can't necessarily say that 2020 was fair on the books, even though it might appear on paper to be fair on the books. Thank you.
Senator Yates, Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Briefly explain my vote, please. I'm voting no on disapproving this contract because there's no reason to disapprove this contract. There seems to be an attempt to bring things that are not relevant into this discussion. The 2020 contract meets the standards as outlined in Kentucky revised statutes, and the TPA has done a good job for our state workers and our volunteer firefighters, and that's the job of this committee, is to make sure that procurement is done fairly and legally. The 2020 contract seems to meet that standard, and they've done a good job for our state workers and our and volunteer firefighters. And I didn't get to ask this question, but I used to vote on TPAs all the time when I was on the WKU Board of Regents, and I have this sneaking suspicion that if we disapprove this contract today, this is going to cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. I don't think we're here to do that. I think we're here to take care of the taxpayers and be a watchdog, but we also need to make sure that we're not doing anything to prove a point that costs people money or harms our state employees. Thank you.
Representative Cook,
Explain my vote. I vote aye. Attempting to intimidate during the process is beyond shameful, and therefore I proudly vote aye.
Chairman Meredith.
I'll say I vote aye, and I'll certainly echo Representative Mentor's sentiments that we're here to make sure that this is a fair and transparent process, and obviously it hasn't been. And it's time to right the ship, and I don't see that occurring. There's not enough votes to defer this contract, so that motion dies. Is there a motion to, excuse me? Didn't count my own vote. Yes, we do have 5 votes. It's a required number to disapprove this contract. So obviously it would go to the Cabinet of Finance. They'll make the final determination on it, but that's the end for this particular item.
Thank you for your time.
Sir?
Next order is consideration of the agenda, including the deferred list, the personal service contract list, PSC amendment list, memorandum of agreement list, memorandum of agreement amendment list, and Kentucky's Entertainment Incentive Program agreement list, except for those items selected for further review. Do we have a motion to consider the contracts reviewed without objection?
Second.
Motion by Co-Chair Cook, seconded by Representative Hart. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
No.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. First item on the pulled list is with CHSFS, Department of Aging Independent Living, is number 34 on the routine PSC green list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, sir. I'm Marnie Mountjoy. I'm the Director of the Division of Aging and Physical Disabilities within the Department for Aging and Independent Living.
Good morning. I'm Amy Metzger. I'm the Division Director of the Division of Finance Administration within the department.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Wayne. I'm the Division Director for the Division of Guardianship.
Good morning. Appreciate you being here. I request this contract be pulled. Again, I don't have a problem with the nature of the contract, but just like some further discussion, clarification on the note we received regarding this. And if I could, let me read just a portion of it. It's obviously to provide residential treatment to individuals with traumatic brain injuries and requires one-to-one staffing. It says the vendor is one of 3 selected by these services. Current programs for traditional brain injury programs are unavailable to address the intensity of the residential or residual cognitive effect of brain injuries and the non-compliant behavior of these individuals. These individuals are being served with NBR, which is the vendor, have been unable to locate providers in Kentucky. Furthermore, Kentucky's waiver program do not offer reimbursement for services such as one-on-one staffing or intensive behavioral services. I guess that's my first question is then how are they reimbursed?
We have our fund, our Traumatic Brain Injury Trust Fund behavioral program that pays for this particular individual services.
And how's that structured? Do they bill like a traditional provider would on a per patient basis, or?
I believe so, sir. We have one individual there at this time.
And again, this is such a unique situation that I'm just kind of bewildered by it. So no one else in Kentucky offers this services because of the limited number of people, or what makes it so unique other than the uniqueness of the person's situation?
It's the individual situation. The behaviors that this participant has he's not been able to have his level of care met here in Kentucky. We tried bringing this individual back, and he disrupted within 2 years, and that particular vendor is the only one that would take him back. So we only have one individual in this facility. Our contract is that 1.6 million, but we do not pay that full 1.6 million. We pay just for this particular individual services. And for the last 2 years of the contract, that's been right around $250,000. So that's all that we've paid.
I appreciate that. Appreciate you that information. I have no other questions. Are there any from the committee? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Co-Chair Cook. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Mentor. All in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
I know that to pull away from regular jobs is asking a whole lot, but I do appreciate the information. This has been very educational for me, but still thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the pull list with Department of Corrections is number 61 on the routine PSC green list. If representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Hillary Daly, Deputy Commissioner of Support Services for the department.
Randy White, Deputy Commissioner of Adult Institutions for the department.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Senator Southworth has questions.
Thank you. I like to hear about the cattle herd, and I noticed in the contract maybe there are horses involved too, but I don't see the details of the veterinary services, how much they cost, and at least in a lot of the prison situations I've seen, the cattle herds aren't nearly as big as you'd think they are. And I'm just trying to get a handle on how big are these cattle herds that we need $20,000 in vet services in a year.
Yes, ma'am. This is Randy White. With us today, we have our departmental veterinarian and some other associated staff with the Blackburn Correctional Complex farm operations. Operationally speaking, I can turn the conversation over to them. They can answer your technical and operational questions. So with that, Mr. Truman, if you want to go ahead and explain the size of the herd and the need for the services, feel free to do so. Thank you.
Mr. Truman, are you with us?
If the committee will permit me, I'll try to reach them on the phone and see if they're having some technical difficulties. They are scheduled to be in attendance today virtually. So if you'll give me just a moment, I'll try to reach.
Randy, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Apologize.
Go ahead.
Our Blackbird herd of cattle is around 72 cows and 3 bulls, and hopefully that many calves each year. The $20,000 is in excess of what our veterinary costs are. That was maximum, where we didn't have to go back in and amend it. The work is for pregnancy checking, vaccination, general herd work, and then, of course, emergency work for calvings and that sort of thing.
What's the actual cost that we've spent, let's say last year, for example?
Truman, I can answer that one.
Okay.
Last year we spent a little over $4,000 in veterinary services at Blackburn.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Being one of the newbies on the committee, what happens with the rest of the money?
The funds are not encumbered. It's just a maximum amount for that contract, so the funds would not be spent. The funds are only spent on actual services received for veterinary services at Blackburn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Co-Chair Cook.
Second.
Second by Senator Douglas. All in favor of the motion, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas?
Aye.
Senator Southworth?
Aye.
Senator Yates? Representative Bowling? Representative Hart?
Yes.
Representative Mentor?
Yes.
Representative Cook?
Yes.
Chairman Meredith?
Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Daly, Mr. White, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Next item's on the pull list with the Department of Education and our numbers 70 and 75 on the routine PSE green list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Karen Worth, and I'm with the Department of Education.
Good morning. My name is Damian Sweeney. I'm the Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging at the Kentucky Department of Education as well.
Good morning.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
I'm Thomas Tucker. I am the Deputy Commissioner, and I'm the Chief Equity Officer at the Kentucky Department of Education, and I also have a few documents for you all as well.
Thank you. Senator Southworth has questions regarding your contracts.
Thank you. I feel like we've maybe seen some pieces of this before, and I'm trying to get a handle on how this ties in, because I felt like we just spent a bunch of ARPA funds on regional consultants, and now we've got a $1.5 million out-of-state consultant. It seems like maybe they're all doing the same thing or doubling on top of each other, or there's more to the story.
Senator Southworth, Chairman Meredith, and members of the Government Contract Review Committee, thanks for the opportunity to address the questions that you have. And Senator Southworth, you actually are right. You have seen some of this stuff before. And what I mean by that is that we first were able to hire our people to work with our colleagues, our building colleagues in our regional co-ops across the state. So in speaking of our regional co-ops, you know, we have 9 regional co-ops that serve the Kentucky Department of Education, in fact, that we're in partnership with. And so it's actually not a total out-of-state contract. So we first put our people in place, our highly skilled people in place, to work with our 647,000 students and 45,000 staff members. Now we're asking, and we talked a little bit about this the last time I was here, we're now asking the committee to approve the tools and the professional learning to help close the academic and opportunity gaps that continue to plague not only Kentucky students, but plague students across America. The 5 most prevalent gaps that public education and education in general continue to face. And so this gives us an opportunity to move from admiring the data to actually having the tools and the real personal learning to address these gaps.
Okay, I'm looking at, thank you for this handout. I'm looking at page 2, or the second sheet here. It says Kentucky Student Voice Team. And in the middle of that middle paragraph, it says mobilizing young people around legislative advocacy campaigns.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you explain that? Because I feel like we passed a bill, something about this past year, where we're not going to be using the educational system to create lobbyists.
Thank you. And I do want to take this brief moment here to explain the handouts that I passed. And I do apologize if all of you did not have these handouts. The Student Voice Team is not connected with the Kentucky Department of Education, and nor does the teaching staff or our staff in general mobilize students in anything relative to critical race theory, if that's what you're getting at. The student voice team, and the student voice team represents the 647,000 students in Kentucky. They created a survey, and they went out and surveyed 11,000 of our students who represent 114 of the 120 counties in Kentucky. And the reason I'm giving you all this, because at the end of the day, whether it's your job as politicians and our job as educators, we're here for our students and we're here for our staff. And what was remarkable, the 6 themes that came from the students' research, again, this was all student driven. In fact, you can go to their website and read up on this information. Several of the themes that were derived from the students' research really are reflected in the 6 things that we're trying to accomplish, the 6 things that point to the achievement gap in education right now. And so I'm only giving you that to say this is not only the voice of adults here in Kentucky, this is the voice of students, and that staff and the folks at Kentucky Department of Education didn't have anything to do with. This was student-driven. These are our students. They represent our 647,000 students. And for them to do a research project totally independent of the Kentucky Department of Education, and their themes mirror the work that we're trying to do, is remarkable.
So if I'm correct, this is the findings from their group you were passing out to make the point that this contract from Texas, but you said it's not entirely from Texas.
No, they're working with our regional co-ops here in Kentucky.
Let's go to the regional co-ops then briefly, because I know we've seen those contracts, and we're talking
Yes.
about 3-year contract staff positions.
Yes.
How does this engage learning from Texas connect with that? Because it seems like it's also got this 3-year time frame thing to it. So
Yes, it is. And I'll address the time frame here in a little bit. The company is based in Texas. In fact, they're here today. They're at the Sauer Building today working with Kentucky staff. And so they're working one-on-one with administrators. They're working with counselors and teachers. And we'll be working, obviously, with the staff at the regional co-ops.
So they kind of set an agenda for the co-op people then to carry out. Is that accurate?
They
while they're gone?
collaborate. Good question. They collaborate in setting the agenda. As a matter of fact, I did hand out to you a timeline. It is a 3-year timeline that will cover their work. And I do apologize. I want to give you a copy. I only have 4 copies, so if you could feel free to share those, that'll be fantastic. So it is indeed a 3-year timeline.
In final question,
Sure.
if we didn't have the group in Texas leading our regional coordinators, would they have a path forward? Or, I don't understand the necessity of having this group tell our regional coordinators what to do, because I felt like when we talked about the regional coordinators contracts, their job was to go and hunt down evidence-based practices and drag them in. And now we're talking about another group that's handing it to them. Okay. So how many layers do we need?
Another very good question, and I'm going to ask Dr. Damian Sweeney to comment on that. So you're moving from working with the coordinators and the administrative staff at the co-ops, and the 3 DEIB people that we have here at KDE really aren't enough to work one-on-one with the 45,000 staff members we have. This provides us another opportunity to reach the most important level, and that's in the classroom. And that's the reason why we're working with classroom teachers, we're working with counselors, we're working with building principals, and we're working with superintendents. 71 of our 170 school districts have volunteered to take part in this important work. Dr. Sweeney?
Yes. So, as Dr. Woods Tucker mentioned, this company is providing us with tools. For instance, they're going to create a needs assessment which each district will be able to fill out and complete. And based on that needs assessment, not only will the vendor help train our trainers, so our co-op staff, but also KDE staff, will be able to address the individual needs of each and every district and school that completes that needs assessment. So that's just one example of how this vendor is bringing in tools to Kentucky and to us that will help us support our educators and ultimately our students.
Yeah. And these are research-based tools. Kentucky is now setting the standard in America, not only in this region, because one, we have Infinite Campus that will give us the data, as I explained, in real time, the opportunity gaps that exist. And now we have research-based tools that every school district in Kentucky, if the staff chooses to, can have tools to address student achievement, how to better prioritize funding, how to address disproportionality when it comes to student discipline, in school, out of school suspension, and also how to improve their culture and climate. And then you've heard us talk before about the importance of having high quality instructional resources and materials. Now our folks have the tools to address those issues as well.
Speaking of tools, so there will be live coaching, as we just mentioned, but there will also be asynchronous coaching. So based on the needs of each school or district, and with that asynchronous coaching, educators can also earn micro-credentials provided by this vendor, which is a really cool way of offering professional learning.
Mr. Chairman, I said that was my last question. I really don't have another question. I just want to wrap this up. I'm pretty concerned on a multitude of levels here. One is, I think we've heard for the past, since I was born, that we're on the cusp of the most amazing thing in education in Kentucky. And frankly, I don't always get as excited when I look down the pike and see we didn't get where we wanted to go. On a number of levels, the layers here that are involved, I feel like evidence-based practices from the coast is not exactly the experience I've had in Kentucky. And I can say that because I was born on the coast. My mom was in the military. But I've moved to Kentucky and I understand the culture is totally different here. I'm just not that interested in coast-based national organizations helping us infuse Kentucky with what they think is the most important thing. I think we're talking about a little bit of a cycle here where what the teachers teach is what students learn. All of a sudden, students are doing surveys on the same topic. I mean, it's not like it's rocket science. I think we have a lot of things we could be working on our education system with this $1.5 million that's not this. And that's why I would move to disapprove.
Senator Douglas, you have a question, comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I have about 3 or 4 I want to ask ahead of time if I can do that. One of the things we need to do in our whole General Assembly and in the Commonwealth of Kentucky is change the narrative. I want to start out by saying we're not politicians, we're legislators. And we need to start, we think that way, and we'd like for our public, the folks who are electing us, to think that same way. We're here to represent the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We've got to change the narrative. Number 2, how much of this 1.453770 was spent on the contract that's allotted on the contract?
Excuse me, Senator Douglas, would you repeat the question?
How much of the contract amount is to be spent?
In what time frame? Or has been? Are you asking how much has been spent or will be spent?
Well, what I'm looking here is I'm hearing 3 years, but I'm looking at my effective dates of May 25, 22 through June 30, 22, and that may just be my misunderstanding of the contract.
No, it's not your misunderstanding. That was the whole purpose as to why I passed out the revised handout, because the committee having to interview various vendors, and it was an extremely rigorous process. and getting the timeline together. And I'm sure you see plenty of contracts where the timeline has been pushed back. And so that was the initial, what we handed out was the initial timeline in which we should have started back in the fall. And so we have 3 years to spend those funds. And what I passed out to you all, and maybe you, Senator Douglas, maybe you've received it or not, you've not received the updated timeline. Dr. Sweeney, can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes. So I'd like to address a couple of things. First off, you spoke about legislators versus politicians, which I appreciated you saying that you're here to represent the people of Kentucky, and we are as well. You know, as we all know, there are many inequities in our state. That's what the students have found. That's what we're seeing consistently across the state, and this helps address those inequities and really point our educators in the right direction based on needs that they've already identified and that are evidence-based, not just from the coast, but nationally evidence-based research, using nationally evidence-based research, which is incredible to me. So we are addressing the needs of our students here in Kentucky, which is exciting. Now, as for the timeline, as Dr. Woods Tucker mentioned, we went through an extremely rigorous RFP process and interviewed several vendors to ensure that we got the best vendor for our educators and students, to ensure that we were going to meet the goals of this RFP. And we found that, to me, again, it doesn't matter if that vendor is from here or there. We decided that this was the best vendor to accomplish the goals for our students and educators. So what you see here is in year one, they will help identify different needs assessments. They will help us disaggregate the data, and then they will help us create different rubrics. For instance, a rubric on policies. We know that there are many policies that are either outdated or inequitably affect some students in a more positive way than others, based on different subcultures, different groups that students may be in.
And economically.
And economically. So we're taking a look at that in year one. In year two and in year three, that's when we do the train the trainers, and we work directly with our regional co-ops, our educators, our district folks, et cetera. Does that answer your question, Senator?
If I could just jump in, this is Karen Worth. That is an up to amount. That is not saying that between May 25th and June 30th that we will spend $1.4 million. That's an up to amount, and then whatever the balance is will go into the renewal system for the next fiscal year. So I think that maybe the assumption is that we're going to spend that in a 5-week period. That's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Damon, would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
And thanks, Karen. That was the point that I was going to make to go along with why we pushed the timeline back. Again, it's up to that amount, but it will not be $1.4 million in a 30-day period. Again, that's why we have extended the timeline for year one, year two, and year three.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chairman, just that one last question.
Yes, sir. One last question.
Okay. My concern for this is I don't see the word parents in here anyplace. We talk about all the things our educators are doing, all our educators are doing. My lovely wife taught school for 38 years. She even started a school for special needs kids, which she ran for 15 years. So I'm intimately involved in how a lot of this works. But my one concern that I have consistently is what we're doing for the educational system and what we're not doing for our families, which includes parents. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that in the record today. Again, we're not politicians, we're legislators. And our charge is to do the best we can for the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, which doesn't just include educators, but it includes families, which includes parents. So I'd like to see some of this talked about at some point in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Douglas, I greatly appreciate that. Senator Southworth, earlier in her comments, made reference to the coordinators that we've hired to work with our regional co-ops, again, across the state. And one of those that you all contract that you did approve is a parent and community engagement coordinator to do exactly what you just talked about.
Furthermore, when schools complete this needs assessment and we're talking about equity and we're talking about looking at policy, we often talk about bringing families in, bringing caregivers in, and how representation matters. Part of our team name is inclusion and belonging, so we understand that reciprocal relationships with families are important. And I will also say that my background is in researching this very problem. And what we found is that for many of our advanced placement, our gifted and talented programs, and our dual credit programs, just to name a few, we're finding that our historically underrepresented families don't have enough information about those programs. And so one of our coaching tips to schools is to find unique ways to engage their families. So very good point, Senator Douglas, and something that we are definitely on top of.
Any other questions or comments? Not entertain a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I made a motion to disapprove earlier.
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
I made a motion to disapprove
Is there a motion to disapprove? I'm sorry, I did not hear that. Is there a second to that motion? Motion fails to lack a second. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Motion by Co-Chair Cook. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Mentor. All those in favor of the motion to approve, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas,
I pass.
Senator Southworth,
No.
Senator Yates, Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Yes.
Kim, there for.
So now enough to.
Contract moves forward.
Motion fails. We lack one vote, but the contract proceeds forward to the cabinet finance firm. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is, well, thank you for being here this morning.
Sure.
I appreciate your participation. Appreciate the education. Next item is Department of Education, also contract number 75, TCB Consulting. If representatives of the Department of Education here speak on this contract, please come forward, identify yourself for the record. And I would respectfully ask our committee members, we got a lot of contracts yet to cover. Let's try to be as concise as we can be in our questions and summaries. We need to move on. I have no interest in being here till noon. We need to move.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Moore, and I'm the Director of the Division of School and Community Nutrition at the Kentucky Department of Education.
Good morning. My name is Katie Embry. I'm the Schools Branch Manager in the Division of School and Community Nutrition.
And I'm Faith Corbin, and I'm the Administrative Review Section Supervisor with School and Community Nutrition at the Kentucky Department of Education.
Thank you for being here this morning. Senator Southworth has questions regarding this contract.
Thank you. I'm getting a lot of emails from constituents. I think there's like news flying around about how school lunches might have other issues going on as far as being able to receive the funding. I'm wondering if this consulting contract is going to be helping with that, or how we're going to navigate whatever these federal regulations are around school lunches.
Yes, ma'am. I think what you're referring to are waivers that our school districts have been under through COVID for the past 2+ years. There were waivers in place for the past 2+ years that allowed students to eat at no cost. The waivers end on June 30th of this year, and I think that's likely what you've heard. We've had a lot of advocacy groups who were hoping that those waivers extended beyond June 30th. This particular vendor isn't a part of that. This is a vendor that we've had in place that assists with required reviews for our National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. So we have review staff internally, but this vendor helps us to do required reviews for National School Lunch and School Breakfast.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Representative Hart. I made a motion. Senator Douglas made the second. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries, and thank you for being available to us this morning. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Please allow me to deviate from the agenda because we got some time constraints we're working under. I'd like to move to the next items on the pull list, being the Department of Public Health, as they've got a meeting coming up very soon, and it is number 212 on the routine MOA pink list and 43 on the MOA 50 and under gray list. So representatives for the Department of Public Health are available. Please identify yourself for the record. Looks like live and in person. Great.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Winter. I'm the Director for the Division of Epidemiology and Health Planning in the Department for Public Health.
And good morning, Mike Tuggle, Department of Public Health, Division of Administration and Financial Management.
Good to see you again. Appreciate you being here. Central Southports has questions.
Thank you. I'm going to look at Pink 212 first. We're talking about COVID testing in, I think it's in prisons, from what I can tell here. Are we still doing COVID testing in prisons? Haven't we had like 5 or more variants? And I mean, I'm not really sure how we're testing for anything at this point. Everything's just kind of out there.
Yes, Senator, we are still doing COVID testing in prisons. We are following CDC guidance and applying that guidance to test when it's appropriate.
And this is for the next 2 years. We're going to continue doing COVID testing.
This contract allows for the opportunity to conduct testing where it's appropriate for the next 2 years.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, can you refresh me on what the other numbers were that they have, that they're supposed to be speaking of, or are we taking votes one at a time?
Oh, yes. We'll take these one at a time.
Okay, that's all I have for this one.
Then let's act on this one before we move to the next one. Is there a motion to approve this contract? No time to be shy, folks.
So moved.
Representative Mentor, was that you, Representative Mentor? Thank you, I appreciate that. Motion by Representative Mentor, second by Co-Chair Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas.
Pass on this.
Senator Southworth.
No.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
No.
Representative Mentor.
Briefly explain my vote.
Yes, please.
I'm voting yes. I'm not sure why anybody's not voting yes. Prisoners do not have the liberty to stay away from each other in very close quarters. This is solid public health practice based on CDC guidelines and basic humanity. So I vote yes. Thank you.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I vote aye, but there are not enough votes to approve the motion, but the contract will proceed to the Finance Cabinet. So, second contract for consideration is number 43 on the MOA 50,000 under gray list. And again, Central Southworth has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see here we're going to do...
Excuse me, I got ahead of myself. I didn't realize that we had new folks coming to the table. I figured everybody was answering the same question here. So if you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Sure. Good morning. Vivian Lastly Bibbs, Director of the Office of Health Equity, Department for Public Health.
Good morning. Astrid Masterson, Office of Administrative Services.
Thank you for being here. Again, Central Southports has questions.
Thank you. I see here we're talking about 2 community health workers in Fayette County. It says one will be preferably Spanish speaking, which I understand that. The second will work with the Tates Creek High School Health Clinic with the LGBTQ population. Now, I'm trying to get to the bottom of why we need a worker dedicated, a health worker dedicated to one high school's LGBTQ population. Sounds like a very small segment. Could compared to, I mean, I understand Spanish speaking makes sense because people can't speak the language. I mean, there's a barrier, but I don't know what the barrier would be to this one minutia group in one high school.
So thank you for that question. This is a new model of expansion into a high school for the first time, and it's with Takes Creek High School. And apparently the data identified within that population, within that school, said this was a need. They were seeing that students that identified themselves under that LGBTQ umbrella were experiencing certain stigmatization and other issues that were preventing them from having access to care and other wraparound services that they saw that these students and these families needed. So they wanted a trusted connector, a bridge that could provide and connect those students to those services within that school. So this is how this CHW was identified as a need within this high school.
And do we have public health workers in other schools? You said this is the first time, so don't they normally talk to like their school nurse or
We do
something
have
like
school
that?
nurses, we do. But sometimes you have to have that other community person that's from the same culture, environment, same person that they can identify as someone that they feel confident in, and that community health worker has proven to be that conduit, has proven to be that connector. So we're hopefully identifying these CHWs not only in our schools, but across the Commonwealth to be those connectors to other health and social services needed, so.
Mr. Chairman, there's probably a lot more that this is hooked to because this is only a May 11th to June 30th contract for almost $22,000. It kind of baffles me a little bit how some of these things get added on to the pile of things, but I don't even know exactly how to proceed here because this could take forever and I don't think it's in the scope of this contract. It's just my final comment is basically thanks for the information, but I'm going to have to learn a little bit more about where all we're putting people and how we're putting people because I feel like there's going to end up a whole lot of duplication between we don't have school nurses, so we're going to get community health workers, but we're going to get one for the LGBTQ people at this one high school, but nobody else is going to have a community health worker, or maybe I'm confused, but we need to figure out how we're spending our tax dollars and not be duplicating and not be narrowing the focus so much that you're only serving one little tiny group of people. I'm concerned that we're not really covering the bases here. I understand trying to pick up the pieces and go through the cracks, but I don't see where this is exactly necessary, and just the tax money that's going to be spent after June 30th is probably going to be a lot higher dollar figure than $21,000. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay, well, to that end, ladies, the effective date shows May 11, 22 to June 30th, 2022. Can you elaborate on what that really means?
Sure. So within that time frame, that the timeline presented by Health First Bluegrass was to hire someone, recruit, get them trained within that time period, and then with the next contract in the next fiscal year, that person would start doing the actual community work. So there's learning the electronic health record, there's learning their system, there's actually additional trainings, there's certification for our CHWs in this state that they have to go through. So that's a process that they'll start within that time frame.
So this $21,000 really is not going to be expended during this 30-day period. It's for a longer period? Or is this?
So,
I think the 21,000 is only for that period.
It's only
It may
for that-
not all be spent. There will be a new contract for July 1 that starts.
Yes.
That will come before the committee as well. I'm not aware of the dollar amount on that, but yes. So it's up to 21,000, I guess, is the best way to say.
So the wheels are in motion, you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Senator Southworth, I certainly appreciate your position. I think this does raise several questions. I think we really only have two opportunities at this point. One is to request deferral of the contract, but it looks like it's in motion. The other option would be to either approve or disapprove the contract at this point.
Mr. Chairman, assuming that the next contract is coming next month, perhaps I would move to defer and we can review them both together, or at least have a better conversation about that.
There's a motion to defer. Is there a second? Second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor of deferring the contract, action on the contract, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Kim, please call the row.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
No, and just a brief explanation of my vote. This is really speaking to the piece you're going to bring forward in July. Again, thank you for doing this outreach. And my 2 school districts in Warren County have 30 different languages spoken. We are a refugee intake area, and bravo on what you're doing. I'd love to see more of it as funds allow, because there are lots of large groups that could certainly use this kind of outreach. I'd be happy to talk to you off public time about some of the things that I'm hearing from my constituents and my school administrators about that. Thank you.
Representative Cook. Aye. Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion to defer is approved, and we'll take it up next month. But ladies, appreciate you being in attendance, and again, I'm sure we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Next item on our pull list, we'll go back to the original agenda here, is Kentucky Lottery Corporation is number 194 on a routine PSC green list. If representatives for Kentucky Lottery, excuse me, obviously very disjointed today. The order of this is actually with Facilities and Support Services, and is contract 161. So if representatives from Facilities and Support Services are present, please step forward and identify yourself for the record.
My name is Jennifer. Oh, it is on. My name is Jennifer Linton. I'm with the Office of Facility Development and Efficiency.
My name is Steve Collins. I'm the director of Bluegrass Station for the last 14 years.
Ms. Linton, Mr. Collins, appreciate you being here. Senator Southworth has a question regarding your contract.
Thank you for being here. I know we've heard a lot about a project coming, and we've gotten not that many details, and now I've last year or so started to become aware that it was going to be a P3 project, and it looks like we're getting a P3 consultant, which I strongly recommend consultants when you're getting into a P3, but I also hesitate with P3s. So could you speak to the project, what we need the consultant for, and what they are going to be able to provide?
Well, as you can see from the short description, this is a very large, complex project. Needs a lot of homework, needs a lot of preliminary events, and that's what the consultant is for. Our department identified a list of preliminary works, and it came up to an amount that was authorized in the 2020 session, and this is money to be applied to that authorization. This is a not to exceed, and it actually could be reimbursable by the eventual P3 winner, or possibly by a federal grant should the project become viable.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions regarding the contract? Now entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Representative Hart. A motion by Representative Hart. Is there a second? Second by Co-Chair Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
Spend my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm voting aye because I do think we need to have extreme expertise when we're dealing with these type of projects, but also these type of projects really concern me. I don't want it to be taken as an approval of a grand P3 scheme that plunges us into a giant long-term situation, then we're holding the bag 20 years from now. So, but I do think we need to have a lot of eyes on this that know what they're talking about, and that's why I'm voting yes.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Ms. Linton, Mr. Collins, appreciate you being here this morning. Appreciate your patience as we get through this. Now back to item number 194 on a routine PSC. This is with the Kentucky Lottery Corporation. If those representatives are here, which I believe they are, thank you for stepping forward, and appreciate if you identify yourself for the record.
My name is Ellen Benzing. I'm an attorney with the Kentucky Lottery Corporation.
Hi, Michelle Sullivan, Vice President of Human Resources.
Thank you. And Central Southworth has a question regarding your contract.
Thank you. I see here that it says we haven't done this in 14 years, but it's also a renewal contract that we've had, and it could be up to like 5 years or something. So can you speak to why the cost is an every year thing, and yet we haven't done it in 14 years? I feel like the scope of the project, is it different this time? But then why is it not that much more money anyway? Are we just using the same vendor for two things?
Yes, thank you for the question. So we have worked with this group since last year. So last year they did some work for us on an executive compensation study, which was VPs and above. That was requested by our board. So that was approximately 14 or 15 roles. They also helped us with return to work strategies, as we all know with the pandemic and returning to the workplace. So this time around, we are going to have a more thorough compensation study that was conducted the 14 or 15 years ago. So it's more where they will look at several roles in the organization, the rest of our roles besides the executive team. So it was not done last year, so it would be the project that's done going forward. And then again, commonly you would not do this for another 5 to 7 years. So obviously we're catching up. So that's the intent of that.
So the potentially 5 renewals is not going to actually end up being used. If they just get their work done this year, then that's it.
Right. We would look each year and discuss with our senior team and our board what work we feel that we would need for them. So right, we would assess that every year. We would not do the same thing with them every year that we're doing this coming year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Motion
questions or
approved,
comments?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Representative Mentor. Is there a second? I'm sorry.
I made the motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll try this again then. Motion by Senator Southworth, second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
This morning.
Thank you.
Next item on the pull list is contract 205 with the Kentucky State Fair Board. Representatives are here. Please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Tony Schreck with the Kentucky State Fair Board. I'm the Chief Finance Officer.
Melinda Gentry, Kentucky State Fair Board Director of Purchasing.
Thank you for being here. And I pulled this contract. It may not be of surprise to you if you know anything about the history of this committee. And quite truthfully, I don't have any questions other than just, I guess, a public reprimand that I don't like retroactive approvals of contract. I appreciate the explanation you gave us in our packet. I appreciate you taking the initiative to make the corrections to your processes needed to make sure this doesn't happen again. But I don't think no crime goes unpunished. And Gandhi had his 7 deadly sins. I've added the 8th, and that's a retroactive approval of contracts. And we've always had a great relationship with Kentucky State Fair Board. I think we've given you folks great latitude in the past, and just want to make sure that that latitude is not taken for granted when these things are not given priority. It concerns me greatly that getting legislative approval should be one of the first things we do, not the last thing we do. But again, I think you've been sufficiently chastised, and hope you carry the message back for me. And with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Representative Hart made the motion. Co-Chair Cook was second. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries, and I appreciate you being here this morning. Hope next time we meet it's in better circumstances. Thank you. Next items are contracts 291 and 295 on our PSC green list, Kentucky Public Service Commission. If representatives here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. I'm Linda Bridwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Public Service Commission.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you being here this morning. And I'll be very straightforward with this one. Don't want to waste your time. Don't want to waste the committee's time. But I have a real aversion to contracts with companies from California because they take action to boycott the state of Kentucky's economy. And I don't have any problem with the substance of the contract. My concern is that it's based on a California-based company. So,
if I may, Senator Meredith, we actually we used this contractor last year. And
I recall.
We heard you, and we actually on the RFP tried to cast a wider net. We had 6 responses on one of the contracts. None of them were from the state of Kentucky, unfortunately. We have been advised that Strategen is moving their headquarters out of the state of California.
Smart people. I like them already.
So for what that's worth, but we did hear you, and I appreciate your aversion. But they did go through the procurement process, and we're the best on both contracts. So.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the information. You possibly have made my day, and it hasn't been a good day, but thank you.
Well, thank
Are there
you.
any questions or comments? If not, entertain a motion to approve. Both contracts.
Second.
Both contracts.
Motion
Second
by
on both.
Chair Cook, seconded by Representative Mentor for both contracts. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
I'm voting yes, but could I make a real brief comment?
Most certainly.
I have the same aversion to California contracts, Senator Meredith, but I'm voting yes based on the information that they moving out of the country.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I vote aye, and because of what Representative Hart said. So, motion carries. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you for your efforts in trying to address the concerns that I have, and obviously shared by Representative Hart as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
This contract is Office of Homeland Security's number 316 on our PSC green list. I want to say Representative is here and bringing his laptop to the table. And if you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. Is it still morning? It is still good morning. Mike Sinceri, Deputy Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security and also Administrator of the 911 Services Board.
Appreciate you being here this morning. Senator Southworth has a question.
Thank you. The first thing I saw here was that we were going to be renewing a contract, but then it said we're going to help guide Kentucky in adopting the next gen 911. And I was trying to get to the bottom of, is this a kind of a one-time lead us in, or is this a constant stream? And so I'm looking again now at the hourly rates for these folks that are all the staff on this project. $177, $206 an hour. Those are rates that are above what we typically even allow our attorneys, and I'm just wanting to get a better handle on people that are project managers and consultants for DHS or whatever's going on here. How do we justify those fees, and is this a one-time project, or is this just staff on a contract?
Sure, appreciate the questions. This is a recurring item. This is the second renewal, so they have been our contracted partner now for 4 years, and this will be years 5 and 6. So the contract was originally awarded to Black & Veatch. That company, the consulting part of that company was bought out by Mission Critical Partners, and we were fortunate to keep our primary staff assigned through that project, who is a Kentucky native, was the director of the Lexington 911 office, and is now a Louisville resident. And as far as the rates go, this is the transition from Kentucky's legacy 911 network to next generation 911 is incredibly complex. It involves network engineering, IT professionals, people who are highly knowledgeable in geographic information systems, which is the foundation of Next Gen 911. It is a multi-year effort. There are states that have been going through this for more than a decade. Pleased to report that we've made more progress in this arena in the last year than we had in the previous decade, but it is an ongoing effort. We've basically gone as far as we can go where we are with the money we currently have, And so the final phase of our statewide deployment will require additional legislation, which we intend to pursue next year. And as far as the hourly rates, again, they're highly technical. Our primary assigned person has the highest certification in both 911 and in GIS.
I appreciate that, and I have a good respect for the IT world when they are experts and they know what they're doing. I've just experienced where they say they're experts and they're sitting around and not entirely sure they know a whole lot of what they're doing, and I'm really trying to watch out for that with a number of people here all making the same amount of money. It concerns me. Are they all experts or are they all sit-arounders? So thank you for the explanation.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Representative Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Southworth. All in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. And I do want to point out this is an up-to contract, and we've been well under the maximum amount each of the 4 years.
Thanks, sir. Next item on the pulled list is which one? That one? 317 on the routine PSC green list. If representatives are here from Office of Controller, or if you're participating remotely, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Brian Thomas. I'm General Counsel of Finance Administration Cabinet.
Ed Ross, State Controller with the Finance Administration Cabinet.
Joe McDaniel with the Finance and Administration Cabinet.
Thanks, sir. All of you, appreciate you being here this morning. And if you've been tuned into this, you probably guess why I called this contract, to pull this contract. And again, it's with a firm from California, which I'm not interested in entertaining, given that California won't support our economy. So I really don't have any questions. Sorry to inconvenience you folks, but my version of this is, again, because it's a California-based contract. Unless you guys have something to add to that, then we'll try to move on.
Senator, I believe the highest ranked vendor here that was awarded the contract is a firm out of California. We did issue an RFP for these services. We had several respondents. The team went through and of course scored those respondents. And again, this was the highest ranked vendor after that process.
Appreciate that. Is there any questions, comments, or entertain a motion to?
Motion to disapprove.
Motion by Representative Hart to disapprove. Is there a second? Being none, motion fails. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Representative Mentor has made a motion to approve. Is there a second? That motion fails from lack of second as well, so this contract will move forward to the Finance Cabinet for final disposition. So thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you participating this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is number 323 on our PSC green list. Office of Secretary of Personnel. Ms. Bailey, I believe. Please, if you could identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Mary Elizabeth Bailey. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Human Resources Administration for the Personnel Cabinet.
Thank you. I have questions, as does Senator Southworth, and you can probably, I guess first another questions, comments, a California-based contract, which you've heard testimony, but the other is that we're maintaining a classification system that was obviously put in place in 1982. Mm-hmm. You know, that was ancient history. I'm just curious as to if we're doing an assessment of this same classification system as to whether it even meets today's work environment or not.
Yes, sir.
And I guess the second question to that is, why does it take $80,000 to maintain it?
Well, first of all, we have contracted with Korn Ferry since 1977 and it's not a review of a 1982 classification system. That classification system has been reviewed continuously every 7 to 10 years, and that is at the that is standard recommendation from our vendor. And what was your second question? I'm sorry.
As to the expense associated with maintaining this system.
Yes, yes. It's up to 80,000. So what happens with that 80,000 is that is used for training of new staff because it is on Korn Ferry's methodology. They own that, and the Commonwealth has used that, like I said, since 1977. So anytime we have turnover in staff, they will come and train our staff for that. In addition to that, they will often evaluate a benchmark set of our jobs to ensure with industry standards that we are compensating appropriately and that we are point factoring appropriately based upon their methodology, which then equates to grades on our compensation schedule.
All right, thank you. Central Southworth, you have a question?
Thank you. So, personnel cabinet is who is doing this, from what I can tell, and they have a job classification branch area, forget the name of it, that reviews all the job classifications, makes adjustments, all that kind of stuff. And there is supposed to be, I thought there was coming out last year. Apparently there's going to be now this year. I think we've pushed them in legislation this year to get a study together of all of our pay grades and all this kind of stuff. In Korn Ferry apparently has been around for decades, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of, is our staff doing this? Are we contracting out to Korn Ferry? Are they involved in this new study that we're doing, or are they duplicating pieces of the study that we've commissioned now, or how do they fit into all this?
Well, I do plan to come on July 6th and testify on the compensation report, but based upon this contract, they are a vendor that we utilize for assistance when our staff needs it, to have maybe another set of eyes, or if there is maybe a new series that we need additional assistance on, then they will be able to do that. Or if we need help, if there's a bandwidth issue, then they can come in at that point and also do job evaluations with us as well.
So you're saying they're an as-needed vendor, not necessarily a critical component vendor?
They are a critical component because it's their methodology that we utilize.
In their methodology, can you explain just a little bit? Because I understand, I'm assuming we're talking about how do you score education versus experience versus pay grade 14 versus 15. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Their methodology is point factoring based, and so there is various factors of each job, whether it's education, experience, environment, discretion, level of authority. All of those things equate to a point on their system, and then which then correlates to a grade on our compensation schedule.
Okay, so this new study that we're doing, is it going to be based on work Korn Ferry's helped us with over the last multiple decades, or is it something different that I'm off topic?
It is going to be various recommendations that we are going to bring to the table. Of course, one of those is going to be on the job evaluation review, in which we use their methodology.
Okay, that sounds really good on paper, and I appreciate your answers. Mr. Chairman, our state personnel system's a lot deeper in trouble than what it sounds like for $80,000 contract to get a second pair of eyes. The pay grade system, and between that and the ACE awards and everything else that's gone on, some people have gotten COLAs and some haven't. I'm just really unimpressed with the rigor of the work. I mean, I suppose this isn't a bad thing, but at the same time, I'm not sure it's helping us, because we're in the place we're in and we had to commission a special study. I'm not sure that continuing on the same path is necessarily the way it needs to go, especially if it's copyrighted or whatever, and we got to keep the same vendor around that has not helped us out of the problem we've gotten into over the last 2 or more decades. So I don't know exactly what to do here other than to say I think it's a little bit duplicative, and we're going to need to figure out a way to get away from this at some point and hold our own, because it's definitely not worked.
Well, I certainly share your concerns, appreciate your comments, and when you're married to a system for now going almost 50 years without a critical analysis of it, a critical review of it, I have to admit I share the same concern. So again, what we're faced with today is either approval or disapproval of this contract. So with that, is there a motion?
I would move to approve, and I would just put out there that we need to not be approving this again in 2 years. We need to approve it today so we can make a transition period, but we need to figure out how to get ourselves out of this. And with this study this summer, hopefully that will launch us into that world. Thank you. That's a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas,
Give my vote and explain.
Yes, please.
I agree with Senator Southworth. I think we need to start looking at some transitioning, and I think we have a lot of transitioning to do here in the Commonwealth overall to become more official or to become more efficient. But I vote aye.
Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates, Representative Bowling, Representative Hart.
Let me explain my vote. Once again, it's going to be a no vote, and with the same theme. The state of California several years ago put the state of Kentucky on a no business list. They wouldn't let any of their personnel come and do business with us. And until we're removed from that list, I will consistently vote no on all California contracts, except for the exception that was noted earlier. So I vote no.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I vote no with the same justification that Representative Hart has given us. But with that, there's not enough votes to approve the contract, so we'll advance to the Finance Cabinet for final disposition. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Next item on the pool list is University of Louisville. Contract 409. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. If you would, from the record, please identify yourself. And
I'm Sally Malsberger, Chief Procurement Officer from the University of Louisville.
always good to have you
Thank you.
here, Ms. Malsberger. Senator Southworth has a question regarding Contract 409.
Thank you for being here. And my issue here, as I'm looking at how we're spending tax dollars, $110,000 is going to lobbying group. Now, there are a lot of ethics requirements around legislators, lobbyists, money, and all this other stuff. And this just feels really wrong. It's felt wrong to me for a long time, but here is a chance to say, for us to be approving our money that we're supposed to be a watchdog of, to send to a lobbyist that we wouldn't be allowed to go to lunch with, then to have them spend the money back on staff to send us emails to say, come sit in our derby boxes. I mean, there's just, this whole thing starts getting really weird. And I wanted to find out if there's any way, why does the University of Louisville not have a staff person that can be the head honcho that comes up here and tells us what's going on at U of L and what you need. And, you know, it would clear out so many ethics concerns because, for example, under the Open Records Act, agency to agency, we can just communicate. We don't have all these barriers between us. So is that something that U of L could consider, or what's been the reason why we're going to do this?
I appreciate that. I see all the contracts, every single state contract I sign personally. So we have set this contract up for a 2-year period. Last year and for prior years, we did it 1 year at a time. And so that $110,000 is actually for a 2-year period. So you're talking about a contract that basically is a $54,000 a year, which trying to find somebody with the expertise of a firm like McCarthy, which we again did an RFP, and all the respondents were from Kentucky, thankfully. But for that cost, we're having a difficult time in staffing, you know, people in procurement everywhere. It's a common problem now. And we get the expertise that McCarthy has 9 people in their company. And I jotted down, Shannon can't be here today. She is our one and only government relations staff person. So she provided me with notes saying that they assist our government relations staff, that's Shannon. And she's in Northern Kentucky with our president right now. We simply don't have the breadth of scope to have her deal with all the opportunities that we see on our doorstep. And McCarthy's brought those to us. It's state and local predominantly, and it's essential to deal with things like healthcare and tax issues. And just in the last year, I'm proud to say this really with a lot of pride, they helped us get a $6 million allocation from Metro Council for our government, our Environment Institute. They've helped us with our state budget, $65 million in support to build our next speed engineering building, and a Center for Military Connected Study, $600,000. So that's just been in 1 year's time. And so, again, I agree with you. Could we please hire somebody? And we would really like to. And Shannon and we all would eagerly do that, but we simply, at the $54,000 and another $1,000 for gas, travel, and expenses. So $55,000 a year. This is our best opportunity to continue to use them. They have kept their rates consistent with us for the past 8 years. We did an RFP, like I said, and we have the terms and conditions for renewal that you have to stay with the same terms, conditions, and pricing. And so it's been a very good investment. We hope that you'll understand.
Well, thank you. I do understand from your perspective how that makes the most sense. Ms. Chairman, from my perspective, we are a body that's supposed to be watchdogging our taxpayer dollars. We're not supposed to be engaging in thousands of dollars of efforts with lobbyists, although there seems to be a lot of loopholes, and of course the General Assembly's responsible for those loopholes. Concerns me that you are definitely getting the good end of the deal here, because I don't know exactly how they're doing what they're doing for you for that price, which then brings us to the unseen numbers. And the unseen numbers, you know, if you get behind the curtain a little bit, I don't know exactly what all goes on, but we're talking about campaign donations. We're talking about all kinds of things, the caucus funds, all this stuff. These lobbyists all donate to these things. So I'm concerned about other things that you're probably not seeing, and perhaps that's why it brings my concern to the level it does. Perhaps the universities could get together, pool resources, and have their own little lobbying group. Like, these people have 9 staff. Well, if all the universities could pay in their $50,000, you know, maybe we'd have a really good, dedicated, knowledgeable group, or somehow we need to figure out how to get this away from the ethics world problems and get it back into the public's hands. So we don't have, I mean, I would love to be able to talk to your staff, honestly. McCarthy is not usually welcome in my office because of the ethics issues. They trap way over the line most of the time. And so I would appreciate when I hear from U of L staff, when I get a lobbyist email, it kind of goes off to the side unless it's something really, really important. So just so you know, that's my perspective. But there again, I'm not the person moving millions of dollars around, behind the curtains. So I think it's a good idea to consider. Just get creative if you can in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Mentor, you have a question, comment?
I have a comment. I'd like to correct the record here, and again, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but lobbyists cannot give to candidates. They cannot give to caucus funds. We don't receive that. That's not correct, and I'd like to get that on the record. I don't want the public to think that anybody up here is taking campaign contributions from registered lobbyists, which is illegal, or from firms that do registered lobbying. And then, to the best of my knowledge, I know they don't donate to my caucus fund. I'm sure they don't donate to anybody else's. So I'd want to make sure that's on the record right now, Senator.
Thank you. Representative Hart.
I had one
sorry.
more point. Thank you.
My apologies.
in my previous life, I was the faculty regent on the WKU Board of Regents, and I hear exactly what you're saying. We had one person, Robin Taylor, who's now working for Senator McConnell. We then added another person, Jennifer Smith, who is our current very excellent government relations person. But it's an overwhelming amount of work, and WKU does not have a medical school. It does not have a hospital. It doesn't have a law school. I mean, a lot of things that add much more complicating things to the apparatus. So I understand your point completely, and this seems to fall into the same category. I was on board when we hired an internal auditor, and there were some people gave pushback and said, I don't know why we need an internal audit, and someone on the board who was an accountant said, internal audit pays for itself. You'll be shocked at how quickly it will. And this certainly seems to do so as well. So again, from the university perspective, I'd want to share with my colleagues how impossible it would be for an organism as large as a research university to have a person who would make a lot more than that $54,000 a year to do that job. This is actually a much better deal for the taxpayers than I think many people recognize. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hart.
I'm the job that we do is to oversee, and we've stated it multiple times over multiple meetings. We're to be a watchdog of how we spend the taxpayers' dollars, and one of the keys to that is making sure we make good investments. I understand the ethical concerns that's been raised today, but I also understand good investment. When you can get the work of 9 people at the price of $54,000 a year, you can never hire one person to do this job for that. And based on the information that you brought forward, the investment is very well. We've come out on not only the University of Louisville, because it is a public university, but the Commonwealth has come out on the better end of the deal, and I think we need to be aware and we need to be cognizant of the ethical issues that's been raised, but we also need to be aware of the good investment that was made. So with that, I make a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
There's a motion and second, but I do have a,
I'll make my comment.
okay. Motion and second to approve the contract. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
No.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Explain my vote.
Yes, please.
I vote aye. Every company out there usually has to contract out for some kind of services. I know on my farm I contract out the mowing. It is cheaper for me to have somebody come in and do that service. They're experts at it. They come in with a huge force. They roll in, they knock it out, keeps the farm looking good. It's the same thing with these contracts. And University of Louisville would actually be doing a disservice by not having it, because we've all sit up there in these chairs. We've all had different bills that are being worked on, and there's a big difference when a bill that's being out there supported by a lobbyist to come through. They know how to come in here. They know how to address it. They know how to put the talking points together. And there is a large difference between bills and between when you're trying to get something taken care of. There's a large difference between stuff that is supported and comes in and it's professional and well put together. And University of Louisville would not be doing their due diligence if they did not have that service out there, because there's a large difference between those who have it and those don't, and the effectiveness of that. So I vote aye.
Senator Meredith.
I vote aye, and I'll explain my vote very briefly. Ms. Eisner and I were discussing earlier about the spirit of Senator Horvath is alive and well in this committee, that he would always object to these contracts because we're looking for a perfect world, and there is no such thing. And Senator Horvath's comment always was that he would hope that we'd have the relationship that you'd feel free to come to any of us at any time to talk about any concern. But again, with 138 legislators, we know that's virtually impossible, but we wish we did have that kind of relationship. And strictly from a business standpoint, this makes sense to do. I think we all would say there's a better way, but financially feasible? No, probably not. And McCarthy as a group does do good work. We all acknowledge that, and you folks do as well. Can't say enough good things about Shannon, but she is one person, so philosophically, yeah, uneasy with it, but from a business standpoint, it makes sense. So again, I vote aye. Also, Motion carries. Contract moves forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here this morning. Next item on our pulled list is personal service contract number 438, Western Kentucky University. And I believe they're participating via Zoom. If you folks are there, please identify yourself for the record so we can proceed.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Smith, Executive Director of Government External Relations for WKU, and with me is Brian Russell, our Chief Facilities Officer.
Good morning.
Good morning. Always good to hear from folks in Bowling Green, and go Toppers. Senator Southworth has a question regarding 438. Senator Southworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see we've got like $6.5 million here, and it says it's architectural work for designing a new College of Business building. Now, I've not been on this committee longer than I've been a senator, but I've not seen a $6.5 million architectural contract before, and I have seen College of Business buildings get built for maybe double that. So I'm wondering, what kind of building is this, and what makes it so special that it needs to have a special architectural work for $6.5 million, and we can't put most of that toward the actual building?
Well, the state of Kentucky does have some criteria that we follow when we look at, and this is about an 8.5% of the total project funds, Senator Southworth, then it does meet that criteria. This is over the whole life of the project, which will not be completed till fall of 2025-4. And so this is the total contract price throughout the entire project from start to finish.
I understand that. That's what I was assuming, but I'm just trying to figure out, it looks like it's about a $72 million project. Is that right?
It's 74.4, yes.
Okay, so.
And if I may, Senator Southworth, real quick, this is the capital project that the General Assembly funded in the most recent budget. And so this is for a very state-of-the-art College of Business building. It will have collaborative spaces for our faculty, staff, and students to work, centers where they will get to have some real-world experiences working with local businesses and organizations within the Bowling Green and South Central Kentucky communities. So that is where this project is coming from.
Okay, so what was the total that we approved for this number?
A little under $75 million in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? None. Entertain a motion. Motion by Representative Hart, second by Co-Chair Cook. Approve the contract. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas.
I vote aye. I have to admit, I am an alumni of Western Kentucky University, which has nothing to do with my vote today, actually. It is a lot for design, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Southworth.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm going to vote pass. I feel like College of Business buildings aren't the newest thing we've ever heard of. I feel like at some point we need to start not redesigning our own state-of-the-art design, but let's copy somebody else's design. It seems like a lot of taxpayer funds in a time where we're trying to figure out how to save, not spend. Although we did approve the building and we gave them an up-to cost, looks to me like the budget's coming right in and they're not. I mean, what if there's cost overruns? It's not been factored into this. I think we need to be looking at how to get it to be, let's say, starting at $60,000. So by the time inflation hits, we do hit the mark and not have cost overruns after that. So I'm going to pass right now.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Minter.
Briefly explain my yes vote.
Yes.
I'm excited to see this project moving forward, and the design costs are completely reasonable based on what I saw on 7 years on the Board of Regents for a project of this magnitude. So best wishes, and yes.
Representative Cook.
Briefly explain.
Yes.
I too have been blown away by design cost. Had no idea when I joined this committee, but we've seen several of those come through, and I'm fully aware now of the cost of doing business and doing these things. And this is I'm not sure what the exact percentage, but usually ends up being around 10% or so. It seems like from the projects I've seen for architectural costs. So it seems to be on board with other projects we've seen come through here. I vote aye.
Chairman Meredith.
I vote aye as well, and just share a brief personal experience with you. In my 30 years as CEO of my hospital, we had over 26 expansion projects, so it seems like architects lived in our boardroom. And one of the things we did start to insist upon is if you're paying those kind of dollars, no change orders. So I suggest you encourage them to keep that to a minimum, because that's very expensive as well. Motion passes. Appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Next item on our pulled list is from our PSC amendment list. It's number 26, Department of Juvenile Justice. And I understand that these presenters will be testifying via Zoom. If you're on board, please identify yourself for the record so we can proceed. And this is contract number 26.
Good morning. I'm William Codell, and I'm an attorney with the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Morning. James Van Buren, Medical Director for Department of Juvenile Justice.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Senator Southworth has a question regarding your contract.
Thank you. I see we're increasing by $40,000 to provide additional funds for mobile dental services due to continued COVID restrictions. Can you explain briefly why we still have COVID restrictions or how that affects the dental services?
Yes. Basically, as a broader explanation of that, we underestimated the amount of services we would need because we were projecting the amount of mobile services we would need based on our 2020 numbers, the number of youth that we had in 2020 in our facilities incarcerated. At that time, due to the pandemic, the courts were not operating at full capacity. A lot of cases were sort of on hold, so to speak, and we weren't receiving as many youth into our regional juvenile detention centers and our youth development centers as we typically would be. This is a 2-year contract for 2021 through 2022, so we were looking at our 2020 numbers, which it turns out ended up being a lot lower than the subsequent years. Once the courts got back up and operating at full capacity, once things started to somewhat get back to normal, our number of youth rebounded. But due to those COVID pandemic issues, when we were working on starting this contract, our estimates were a little bit low as far as the number of services that we would need.
Thank you for that explanation. I was reading this as in there were going to be future COVID restrictions. I think what you're saying is there were past ones and it messed up your numbers. So that makes total sense. Thank you. Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Representative Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the row.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Minter.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yeah.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you, Jennifer, for being available to us this morning.
Thank you.
Next item on our PSC amendment list is University of Kentucky. As we've already heard from Western Kentucky University and University of Louisville, it's only fair that we give equal time to University of Kentucky. Yeah. So, yes, plus Bart likes to visit with us.
Absolutely, Chairman. And it's still morning, so we're good, right?
Don't curse us.
Well, you know.
If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Sure. I'm Bart Harden. I am the Director of Government Relations. I have with me Naomi Emmons, who is our Deputy Procurement Officer. Barry apologizes for not being able to be with us today.
Well, tell him we miss him.
Absolutely.
We got 2 contracts for you folks to discuss. First is number 50, and Senator Southworth has a question or comment regarding that one.
50 is Sasaki, right?
Thank you. So this might be going right back to the coast conversation we had earlier. So we have here a diversity, equity, inclusion master plan, We're adding $46,000. I was trying to figure out, it seemed like we were adding additional work. We're already, I mean, we're pushing into the $500,000 range here. I think for somebody to come in from the coast and tell us how to do our school, which I understand UK likes to compete nationally and be the best at all this stuff, but we already know they're the best at basketball, so I don't think we need to discuss that. And the rest of it, I'd like us to just serve our state and our students here. I think that was the whole point in the very first place, and I'd like that to continue to be our mission instead of constantly trying to figure out how to compete with Massachusetts. So can you explain why we can't have the existing professional development, the existing whatever we've got going on here can't cover, and we need $500,000 from Massachusetts to help us out with something I'm not entirely sure they know what they're doing in Kentucky?
Thank you for the question. This is a contract you saw about 16 months ago in its original form. They've been working on this DEI study for that 16 months. We're getting fairly close to the end of it. I think our executive management team has seen some drafts. They have asked for some changes and some modifications. That's what this contract amendment is for. I will remind this committee, as I know you know, we are a very diverse institution. We have students from 50 states, all U.S. territories, and approximately 100 foreign countries. So we are multiracial, multicultural, and it's a tough environment to navigate in the best of circumstances. I think this report is going to help us address some issues we have ongoing on campus. I mean, from ADA compliance, we are ADA compliant, but there are things we can do to make ADA access even better. We survey our faculty, staff, and students at least once a year for input on how we can do things better, what we're doing poorly, frankly, and what we're doing well, we hope. But this is an opportunity for us to address some issues we have on campus. And again, we're a very diverse population at the University of Kentucky, and President Capilouto thinks this is an important step to improving the university and making everyone that is a part of the UK family feel included.
One more question. In one of the things listed in this plan was free speech spaces. Last I checked, the First Amendment kind of goes everywhere. And I feel like we passed a bill a few years ago, but it was right before I got here, something to the tune of free speech on campus. And I'm sure and hoping that this plan conforms to that law, but I don't understand why we're talking about free speech zones. Why isn't our institution of higher learning kind of all about free speech anywhere?
It is, and we do have free speech zones, and there's a reason for that. We don't want protesters outside dormitories at 2 o'clock in the morning. We don't want protesters out. I shouldn't say protesters. Let me rephrase that. Demonstrators. Outside a classroom building while classes are going on. We have free speech zones. The campus is open to free speech, but yet we do have some restrictive areas within our campus. I know we have had some bills in the General Assembly over the past couple of sessions that have attempted to address some of that, but I don't think they made it all the way through the process. But we have always argued we're totally for free speech, but we still need to have some restricted zones to protect basically our students, our employees, and staff during particular times.
Final question. Can you just describe this new work, $46,000 that we asked for changes? Is that just because we're running over on the hours that they originally calculated, or there's specific work that's being literally added?
No, it is not. This has turned out to be a very lengthy study. It's probably will be in the hundreds of pages when it's finished. One of the components we have asked for is an executive summary to be added to this document. We think it'll be more user-friendly. I think it will get, frankly, read more from an executive summary standpoint than the entire document will. Secondly, I think there's some areas that we are hoping to achieve that comes out of this study. Our executive management team wanted those things highlighted and emphasized more in the final version of the report. And there's some other tweaks I think that they had requested be made. But no, it is definitely not because we've ran over on hours.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by, motion by Representative Hart, seconded by Co-Chair Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
Mr. Chairman, I was not thinking I was going to vote yes on this, but I think I'm going to vote yes because I don't like spending $1,000 of taxpayer money for executive summaries, but I also feel like if I'm going to review this, I might be reading the executive summary. Thank you.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Contract is approved. And while we got you that seated at the table, we'll move on to our next item. It's number 41 on our PSC under 10,000 list. And I pulled that one, and you're nodding. You know why. Come on, this is horse country. We got to go to California to find someone who can do this work.
Actually, we were required to go to California on this because the horses are in California that we're going to be taking these samples from. We do not have a pure quarter horse population that they want to do these tests on. Let me back up and tell you what this is. This is a study looking at drug half-lives in more aging quarter horses. How long a drug stays in their system versus a 2, a 3, or 4-year-old. And so since we didn't have a pure quarter horse population in our herd, I believe the National Cutting Horse Association has offered, 1, to pay for the study, but 2, offered the horses out of California. As a result, we have to have a California vet to do the blood sampling. And that's why we have a contract with California.
Excellent. You folks did a great job. I'm proud of you. With that, I'll make the motion to approve. Motion second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
I have to explain my vote. I'm going to be voting yes, just out of the necessity because I understand the research implications and the fact that your research test sample is out of California. But I do it reluctantly because I'm still a little upset that they put us on a no business list.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all for being here this morning. Always good to see you. Next item on our pulled list is number 69 and 70 from the Board of Elections. Representatives are here. Please identify yourself for the record. And they're running to the table to be identified. They must want lunch like the rest of us. If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Karen Sellers, Executive Director of the State Board of Elections.
Richard House, Assistant Director of the State Board of Elections.
Morning, Taylor Brown, General Counsel for the State Board of Elections.
Glad to have you this morning. Senator Southworth has questions regarding your contracts.
Thank you. So we're on pink MOA 69 and 70. We have Lexington, Fayette, and Clark County. Mr. Chairman, these are kind of all the same question. Do you want me to blow the gray in with it, or do we need to take separate?
Yeah, let's do that if we could. I'd appreciate that, just in the interest
Separate?
of times.
Okay. Well, then we'll go on pink. So we have $575,000 in Lexington and $65,000 in Clark. In reviewing the contract, I couldn't tell. It's just an amount, so we don't know what it's for. Is this for a new overhaul system, or is it the 65? I'm assuming maybe is just an add. They're just adding some more of the existing things they already have. Can you describe the type of contracts these are for? What are we getting for this money?
The State Board of Elections had some additional HAVA funding, election security funding, and about $6.7 million, and in an effort for counties to bring voting equipment upgrade to a verified paper trail, which was required now by statute. we took that funding and we are now distributing it, reimbursing counties who meet the eligibility to be able to, once they purchase election equipment, we can reimburse them for a portion. That portion is $2,500 per precinct. In the example of Fayette County, they cannot, their reimbursement cannot exceed the actual cost of their equipment. So for instance, in Fayette County, I believe they had purchased about 700 or 800,000 in additional equipment. But under the 2,500, they could only be awarded $575,370. It cannot exceed the amount of the number of precincts that they have at 2,500 per precinct.
So in Fayette County, for example, I feel like we just approved them maybe a year ago for a whole new shebang, everything new. How are they getting, it doesn't seem like to me, or else they still had some old machines, or why are we seeing more money now for them?
Well, that funding that was approved, I think sometime last year, was a HAVA grant that was that they had not accessed the funding from 2008, I believe. They had not accessed that funding, I believe, and that is why that is a total different reimbursement funding than this.
But they qualify now for a new system, even though they just got a new system last year.
Well, they bought additional equipment.
Pieces of the
Yes.
same system.
Yes.
Okay. In Clark County, are they buying additional pieces, or is this? Off the top of my head, I can't think that we've had a Clark County recently. But I mean, the word recent for me is pretty recent because I've not been on this committee more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So is Clark County replacing their old DRE machines with this money, or are they adding to their already new system?
They are replacing old equipment.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve number 70 separately. Can we do that? A motion to
Yes.
motion to approve number 70 for Clark County to get rid of their DRE systems and get papers behind those machines.
Motion to approve contract 70 under the MOA listing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Co-Chair Cook. All in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Southworth.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The DRE machines that are still somewhere around our state, and we're trying to move them out, and I think next year or something's the deadline. I appreciate those counties that are trying to do that. I also appreciate the fact that a lot of our county clerks understand that real paper ballots are the best way, and we're doing hand-marked paper ballots, except for in these very slim circumstances for the disabled. And that's the reason why I would support this, even though I don't know that I've ever supported a voting machine contract ever. So I vote yes.
Thank you.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Minter.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries approval of contract number 7. Senator South, what's your position on 69?
69, I would move to disapprove because Lexington obviously is spending more money than they have been allocated. They already have a brand new system we just gave last year. The systems they use are not 100% paper-based like we think they should be, at least I think they should be. There's a lot of tablets involved in this. I feel like we need to get to entirely paper wherever possible. And these expensive tablets not only are more time consuming, less safe and secure, but also apparently they're going to be spending more money of their own beyond just what they're allocated from the federal funds. Overage they seems like they need to live within their means, and so I just don't see that that's a good idea right now. So I've moved to disapprove that one.
There's a motion to disapprove. Is there a second? Motion dies from lack of second. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Representative Mentor to approve, seconded by Co-Chair Cook. All those in favor vote aye. All those vote no. Clerk, please call the row.
Senator Douglas. Senator Southworth.
No.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
No. Not enough to approve the motion, so we'll go to Finance Cabinet for final disposition. Thank you. Appreciate you attending this morning.
Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't mean to go out of order, but they had two others on the gray
I'm sorry.
list.
Yes, my apologies. We
I was
got a
going
long,
after that
long list
lunch.
today, but yeah, we don't want to hold you up any longer. So yes, we have under our memorandum of agreement for $50,000 under gray list, Board of Elections contracts number 8 and 9. And Senator Southworth, please, thank you for bringing that to my attention. But Senator Southworth has questions about those two contracts.
Yes, in Union and Adair counties, can you speak to, are they replacing DRE machines or are they adding to, I don't think they have new systems, but maybe they do, I don't know.
They are getting complete new systems. They've purchased complete new systems in both counties.
40,000 is a complete new system?
No, the total invoice, if I look at Adair, it's $213,092.90. Their eligibility under the grant criteria we have is 40,000. That's 2,500 per precinct. They have 16 precincts. So that was the reimbursement.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to disapprove these because in my experience, the smaller counties, for one, don't have their precincts broken up as small as the larger. I think that actually needs to be looked at. But second of all, they're usually using bond funds, going into debt, plunging their local community into a lot of debt for machines that frankly aren't overly necessary. And obviously some of that's our fault. I'd like to see us take that up and give them better options so they don't have to buy expensive machines for everything. But we certainly, I don't like to see them going into debt. 40,000 is pitiful compared to the total cost of that. And I think considering the fact that we're seeing new information pretty much daily at this point, and it's going to continue for the rest of the year, daily information on how the machines aren't necessarily overly trustworthy. I think we need to be looking at waiting a few more months because we don't have any impending elections right this second. I'm sure we can get through to the end of this year, and let's figure out exactly what we should be doing so we don't using taxpayer dollars on things that go out of style next year.
As a long motion, I would appreciate if we could give our guests an opportunity to reply to that because it's rather broad. Do you have any comments? Go ahead.
I understand your concern about the number that we were reimbursing. State Board of Elections at this time only had $6.7 million that we could allocate under an election security HAVA fund. So we chose we based it on the number of counties available to purchase election equipment, took the number of total precincts, and tried to come up with a number that we felt was fair based on the amount of money we had, which was $2,500 per precinct. I certainly agree it's a small amount, but it's the amount the State Board of Elections had that we could help the counties as much as we could. I will add that the legislature did approve an additional $25 million, I believe, that came about for the next biennial, and that is $12.5 million each year, which will go a long way to help counties further with their purchases that they are looking toward. And have currently made. This equipment was used during the May primary. These counties wanted to bring their election equipment up to speed. They did it partly because they knew there was reimbursement that their counties could actually get, and we appreciated that they wanted to do that and that we could help them in some way. I'm sorry, $6.7 million is not very much, but I have kudos to the legislature for adding additional funding coming up to get these counties up to the grade and level of election equipment they need by January 1st of 2024.
And
we will do all we can to help them with that.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could address the second part of that motion there.
Yes, please.
The equipment certified and in use in the state is from two vendors currently, HARP, which we're talking about today, and ES&S. And State Board is under no illusion or there's nothing to base anything from our side that we will hear or have heard or will hear daily about anything attacking the credibility of the machines that are used in Kentucky. So I just want to put that on the record.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. We have a motion to disapprove. Is there a second? Motion fails from lack of second. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Co-Chair Cook, seconded by Representative Mentor. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas,
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, could you repeat the motion? There was a lot of conversation.
Motion is approve contracts 8 and 9 under the memorandum of agreement for $50,000 and under.
Aye.
Thank you.
Senator Southworth,
No.
Senator Yates, Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Next item is on our memorandum of agreement list, number 87, Council on Post-Secondary Education. Representatives here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record. Bless your heart, you've been here a long time.
know.
God bless you.
Hello, I'm Leslie Brown. I'm the Executive Director of Administrative Services with the Council on Post-Secondary Education.
I'm Travis Powell. I'm a Vice President General Counsel at CPE.
Well, we're going to give both of you at least a dozen attaboys and appreciate you being here. With that, Senator Southworth has a question regarding contract number 87.
Thank you. It looks like to me we've got a staff member that's actually on a contract, and so the salary is $145,800 plus fringe for this for 2 years. I know that there are a few positions in the Commonwealth that are allowed to go over the statutory maximum. I think this is not over the statutory maximum. It's just barely creeping up to it, though.
That is correct.
And I would feel like a person in a vice president role wouldn't be making the most money in the group. There's probably a president that makes more than that. Can you speak to the payroll tiering structure to some degree on how we can pay this amount of money to not the top staff? I'm just really struggling with I know what state pay is.
Mm-hmm.
So explain that.
I'll let Travis take this one.
Okay, sure. So you're correct. The president is the highest paid employee of the council. The council the council board sets his salary. There's actually a statutory limit for his salary. And we all are non-merit employees working for Dr. Thompson. The vice president's salaries are what you see there. There are 5 vice presidents now with her when she moves to vice president at CPE. So, and those are the highest paid employees in the agency, other than the president.
One more point I would like to make to that is, although we are a state agency, we are in this very uncertain area where we have to recruit from college campuses and universities. And as you well know, their salary structure is different than those of executive branch agencies with the state. And that's one of the reasons that you see what that amount and what it is.
Okay, so my final question, why is she on a contract instead of a staff?
That one's an easy one. So I'll take this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with CPE, we do not offer teacher retirement. When we began with the Commonwealth Education Continuum, which is trying to bring together the stakeholders to fulfill the transition between P12 and post-secondary to make sure we're all on the same page, we looked at bringing in contract work versus someone within the system. And we found that within the system was our best bet, but most people in the system that had that expertise were already enrolled in Kentucky teacher retirement. So we reached out to KDE, since they are also part of this Commonwealth Education Continuum, and we partnered with them to make sure that we recruited someone that not only had the expertise available to us that was within the system and knew Kentucky, but we wanted to make sure that we could offer them the retirement system, which they were already a member.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Representative Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Sound like a tie there, but I think tie goes to Representative Mentor. So congratulations. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas,
Again, I pass.
Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates, Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for your patience, indulgence, and participation today.
As
Greatly
always,
appreciate
we
it.
appreciate your
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Attaboys are in the mail. Last but not least, Department for Community-Based Services. It's contract 106 on our MOA list. And here's another one that deserves probably 3 dozen attaboys. So
Good morning.
appreciate you being here. I know you've been privy to this conversation from the get-go, and
Yes, sir.
you probably know what my question and concern is
Yes, sir.
have at it.
Good morning. My name is Mary Carpenter. I'm an executive advisor with DCPS. I hope you'll at least let me plead my case.
I most certainly will.
Okay.
I couldn't deny you after you sitting here as long as you had said.
So, the Consortium for Children is a vendor from California, but we use SAFE. It's a home study model that we use to approve our foster and adoptive parents. We contract with the consortium to train our staff and our supervisors to be able to actually conduct the home study model. The consortium is actually the only vendor that does this work. They're in almost every state out there. There's only 4 states that they're not in. So there's really no one else that's doing this work. SAFE is copyright, so we have to use their tools. So we really we do see really great outcomes in using this model. It's research based. We see great outcomes in preparing our families to care for children in foster care. We use this model for our DCBS foster homes, so those are our state-approved foster homes. We have private foster homes in Kentucky too. Not all of them use the SAFE model, and we see a great difference in homes that where we use the SAFE model, and then versus private agencies that actually do not use the SAFE model. So we're actually moving towards using SAFE with our private homes as well. We did a modification to be able to pay for the private agencies to actually use SAFE as well, because we're seeing such a difference in placement stability for children in foster care. So I appreciate your stance and wish that they would lift that ban, but we do really see great outcomes in preparing foster and adoptive parents to meet the needs of children in care.
How long have you used this model?
We have been using it since 2015.
In how many states you use it? Do you know?
There are only 4 states that it's not in.
It's not.
Yeah, North Dakota, Idaho, Alaska and Hawaii are the only states that SAFE is not in.
What's the matter with those people? Yeah. Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? If not, I entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Co-Chair Cook, seconded by Representative Mentor to approve the contract. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates. Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
No.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I would have voted no on this one for that principal reason, but by golly, you've sat here for so long and been so patient, so understanding, and the fact that this appears to be the only source available for this service and is proven, I vote aye. So, contracts approved. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Final item on the agenda is exemption request, Division of Emergency Management, which administrative attached to Department of Military Affairs, and this request goes because it crosses the biennium, and this is pretty routine for us.
Motion to approve.
Kim pointed out to me that this one goes out to 2034. So when you folks are on this committee in 2034, you can scrutinize it at that point. But with that, is there a motion to approve the request?
Second.
Well, we're rushing all over that one. I'll give this one to Representative Hart, seconded by Co-Chair Cook. Can we do this by voice?
Sure.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries. Committee members, thank you for your hard work and diligence this morning, patience. Before we adjourn, please note that our next meeting date is Thursday, July 14th at 9 a.m. This is a change of date. Usually we're on a Tuesday, but we'll be on Thursday next month.
A little time to review the 2,000.
Yep.
We'll probably get 2,000 next month as opposed to 1,100.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And remember that we have more contracts in July, but the burden falls on Co-Chair Cook. So please be patient with him and give him your prayers.
See if I do 2.5 hours.
We stand adjourned.
1 hour challenge accepted.